Hey guys, so this will be the part 2 of the spiritual warfare video that I did. So, getting back into the spiritual warfare and talking about how that relates to actual warfare. One of the things the military does is they look at what our enemy's most likely course of action will be. So, for instance, in Afghanistan and Iraq, a lot of times it's ambush techniques. So you're more likely to get ambushed than you are the enemy to come out and actually engage in a traditional type firefight where they'll stick around. They like to hit and run pretty much. They don't like to, they know we are better at fighting and we're better at bringing firepower and doing overwhelming fire. So they like to hit and get. They don't typically. Now, sometimes when they know they're out of artillery range and they know they can, stick around for a little bit, sometimes they will. But 9 times out of 10, it's an ambush, and once they ambush you, they just see what kills they can get and they leave. A lot of times they may not even be around. They may just put a booby trap down and leave because they know you're likely to, kill them. So, anyway, back to the point about spiritual warfare. So we do reconnaissance to find out what our enemy's most likely course of action will be and what is likely to cause us casualties. And we also look at what the enemy's highest producing casualty weapon is and what they're likely to use against you. So getting back into spiritual warfare, the Bible is your intelligence package. It's an intelligence briefing. That's all the Bible is tells you who your enemy is, what they're likely to do, how they're likely to try and kill you. It's a full packet on your enemy and the battle that you're taking place in. So that being said, that knowledge is power. That is your power. That is your knowledge, is the Bible. And by reading the Bible, you get a better understanding of your weapons and the enemy's weapons. So, in the church today, in spiritual warfare, there's 2 things that I think are the highest producing casualty weapons, what the enemy is most likely to use against you. One is hypocrisy. And a lot of people, when they think of the word hypocrisy, they're thinking of someone else. Everyone is a hypocrite. I don't care if you think you are, because everyone has this moral code that they think they won't pass, and then we all do. The Bible says everyone sins every day. So that enough is enough to tell you you're a hypocrite too. If you believe that and you think you shouldn't do those things and you still do, that's just part of being human, is you're gonna mess up. It's just your Christian walk is how you approach those mess ups. So hypocrisy is a big one, because people that aren't Christians look at someone that claims to be a Christian and they go, well, I don't want to be a part of that because that person doesn't really practice what they preach. And that's not always true. Sometimes it is, but that's not always true. Sometimes people are just faltering, and people see that. That, I think, kills a lot of people, is because they put too much trust in people and not God. They put too much trust in their preacher and their deacon and someone else and their spouse, whoever it is. Put too much trust in them. Even your battle buddy, and we talked about having a battle buddy and somebody that you look up to and that is your spiritual helper sort of thing to keep you on track. Even that person, you can't put all of your faith in that person. Your faith can only be put in God to not be failed. That's it. So hypocrisy, I think, is one of the biggest casualty producing weapons that the enemy uses, because he doesn't even have to work with that. That's just something that someone falters and they see it as hypocrisy, or someone says do this, don't do this, and then they don't do that, or they do that, or whatever. They do the opposite of what they preach. I think the second highest producing casualty weapon that the enemy uses is your own addictions, your own weaknesses. And what I mean when I say that is, if you have a weakness and you have an addiction It never fails that when you get close to God, or when you feel like your spiritual walk is on track, that's what you're going to get hit with. If your weakness is gluttony, your church is going to have a buffet. Whatever it is, like whatever your weakness is, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be pornography, it could be whatever your weakness is. Gossip, there's all kinds of them that can bring people down. But the problem is a lot of people try to beat their weaknesses and try to beat their addictions and their habits on their own. And that goes back to, like we said before, having that battle buddy, having that spiritual partner that you can be accountable to and say, hey man, if I do this, and be honest with them, these are my weaknesses, this is what I'm not very good at. You can't attack those on your own. If I was an alcoholic, I'm not going to go to a bar and think I'm going to beat that. That's the stupidest thing in the world. You're throwing a sheep to the wolves. That's all you're doing. And so many people do it, especially a new Christian, if it's somebody who's had a life, a rough life before, and they've had all kinds of addictions. They come in, they'll get saved, and then they immediately think, I'm saved, I'm going to beat it. And then that's why a lot of people go back and forth and back and forth. It's not because God failed them, it's because you put yourself in a situation where you just put yourself at your own weaknesses, and you didn't have the armor, and you didn't have the sword, you basically didn't train yourself to fight, and you didn't bring friends. And the number one rule of a firefight is bring a gun. The number two rule of a firefight is bring friends with guns. Same thing in the spiritual warfare. Number one, bring your weapon. Number two, bring friends with weapons. So if you're trying to attack it on your own, you're going to lose every time. So that being said, I don't want to make this video really long, but that being said, I think the biggest casualties is people trying to attack their weaknesses and their bad habits and their addictions on their own, and hypocrisy. So if we as Christians worked on just those two things. And another thing is, if you feel like you're doing good, and this is another one that bothers me, and this goes back to hypocrisy. If you feel like you're doing good, it is not your place to tell other people they should be doing better. Now, there's a caveat to that. If you're in a leadership position, or you're trying to mentor someone, that is different. But if you're standing on a street corner yelling at people that they're going to hell, that's not what Jesus did. Jesus didn't walk around pointing at people saying, you're going to hell, you're going to hell, you're going to hell. No, he loved them. That's how he showed love. Is he didn't go to them telling them, well, you're going to hell. No, he showed them love, and he talked to them about God. If I have a friend, let's back up. If I know someone and they're not a friend, and I think they're doing wrong, it's not my place to tell them you're going to hell. Okay? It's my place to live a Christian life, or at least try as close as I can to live a Christian life and to be that example. Now, if we're close and we're to that level that they understand that if I say something that, it's out of love and it's out of friendship and it's not out of condemnation and I'm not attacking that person, that's completely different than me going up to someone that I don't know and go, you're going to hell because you don't think like I think. That's terrorism. That's what ISIS does. That right there is you are a bigot and you are a hypocrite at that point. And I believe at that point it's on purpose, because you're telling someone that they're not meeting your moral code. God may have not got to that point with them yet. They may be working on something else. Now, I'm not telling you don't impart into people's lives. It's not what I'm telling you. What I am telling you is make sure that it comes from a place of love, and they know that it comes from a place of love. If you're just now meeting them, they don't know that it comes from a place of love. If you're meeting someone on the street and you're telling them you're going to hell because you're doing this or that or that or that, whatever it is, that's not love. In the same aspect, you're not going to be someone new and telling me because I'm a Christian that I don't believe that blah blah blah. There's two sides to that coin. So anyway, those are the biggest ones, guys. That's a big part of the spiritual warfare, is knowing your enemy, knowing what weapons your enemy is going to use. And the Bible is your intelligence package. That is God's already done the recon. God's already done the intelligence gathering, put it in a book for you. Here's your briefing. This is your map. This is everything. That is literally the best intelligence package ever put together, because you know your enemy inside out. You know the battles you're going to fight. You know how they're going to take place. You already know the ending of the battle. It's just a matter of you fighting that battle and not becoming a casualty, because you basically got in your own head and convinced yourself that you know, either God wasn't real or whatever it is. And that, you know, that being said, you know, especially on social media nowadays, so many people are torn back and forth because there's so much bashing and, you know, so on and so forth. You know, people that are like, for instance, I have a few atheist friends on my Facebook, and they constantly just bash Christians, and that to me is just anti-Christian. It's not atheist. You're not atheist. So, you know, and in my opinion, it takes just as much faith to not believe in God as it does to believe in God. So if that's you and you don't believe in God, and for some reason you're watching this video, okay, you know, but to me, it takes just as much, especially, you know, if you think science, okay, you came from a Big Bang, or however, where did that speck that blew up, or whatever it was, come from? That takes just as much faith. The human brain doesn't have a concept of endless time. So even as Christians, where did God come from? Our brain doesn't have a concept of endless time. It doesn't work. We can't handle it. So, you know, if you think, oh, we came from the earth and the atmosphere and the space and everything came from a Big Bang, or blah, 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 there's no explanation of how we got here. It's just one belief or another. I choose to believe in a God because there's so many things in life that I've seen that's pretty much the only explanation I can believe. It's not science at that point. So, you know, to each their own. But that being said, when you're a new Christian and you haven't had that, you know, standing foundation, and you haven't gotten in the Word, I think that is another casualty-producing weapon is social media. Honestly, I think that kills a lot of people's faith, is because, you know, you are what you eat. Well, you're also what you bring in. If you constantly look at and feed yourself with one type of information, you're eventually going to give up. You're eventually going to. That's just how your brain works. If you don't have both sides of the coin, then your faith isn't that strong, because you're only choosing what your brain is taking in. That being said, I think you should have both sides of the coin. I don't think that my faith should ever be questioned. I think it should be, because that's how you progress. That's how you learn to understand. That's faith. That's how you learn. So anyway, I don't want to make this one drag on too long, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll be doing more of these type videos, just kind of venting what I'm thinking, and, you know, that sort of thing. So I'm also still going to be doing the tactical videos and stuff. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching.